Hello.
Welcome to Everyday Alice's.
So today's topic is nurturing childhood. I think that the simple concept of how to raise kids is one of the most sensitive concepts. You can't talk to someone about it and pass judgment. And I think that the reason that stems is because uh, really people know what's best for their own kids 99% of the time because they are just an extension of their own DNA. Um, but I think things that align people across all cultures is values. You know, whether you value um, work over family, or you value frugality over expenditure, or you value community over excess. All these little, it's where do you put your energy, right? Where you put your energy represents your values, and it doesn't matter what culture you are in. Everyone does the same transactions with their energy, and so we can relate to each other. Um,
I thought of this topic the other day. We were talking about, how do we just let our 4-year-old be four and also teach him how to be safe and not run around a busy street. And that balance of teaching him like a safety lesson, a life lesson, and also a kid just wanting to run around and be free. And so it made me think of that concept of freedom and play, but also teaching these important things. So I I remember my own childhood where my mom and stepdad would wake us up before the sun would rise when it was super dark and take us to go like fishing, for example, down at the pier in Huntington Beach. And that's such a poignant memory in my brain of a fun thing my family did. And, you know, I don't know that it was necessarily teaching us this monumental life lesson, but it was just enjoying, our childhood. It was so fun for us to be with our family like that. We didn't know the adventure we were going on. And I think that, when I think of this time when we're navigating teaching our son's safety, I think it is important to balance those fun fishing experiences, but also the seriousness of this is a safety thing. We want you to run, but we need to teach you safe spaces to run. Like at the park today, there's a big grassy area, and it's hard when it's out of context, right? He can run around as silly as he wants at the grass at the park, but when we're in an area around high traffic and cars, then that's not the same context. So teaching your kids that is hard.
yeah, and you don't want to scar them in one way or another so that they relate the discipline to one type of event. So if you take them fishing for the first time and it doesn't go well because you had to impart significant discipline, then they're never going to want to go fishing again. It's important because these little events of, especially with Hudson, he's 4 right now. These little events of him thinking that he understands the lesson and he thinks he knows when he can step outside it. And we let our kids do that. There's not everything's black and white, which might be a an efficient way to parent, but we like the fact that they choose to push boundaries. Because I think if you want to be successful in life, you have to be comfortable pushing boundaries. You just have to know where the morals and values lie. Um, so sometimes he thinks he knows when he can do it. So it's hard. It's hard to impart the discipline. I think it's harder to um, allow your kids to play with the boundaries at such a young age and let them learn the reason for the discipline, not just the black and white, if this, then that. Because their brains will understand if this, then that if you apply enough repetitive force. But will they understand the morals or values behind that decision? And Hudson's very interesting because at a young age, he questions things on a deeper level than I would ever expect a 4-year old to question. Talks about death all the time. Uh, but that makes me think maybe on some level he's actually comprehending the moral, ethical values of these topics.
So that's a spot we could transition where, we talk about hard topics, hard truths with our kids, like death.
Uh-huh.
That's something that in our family, not only because of Jon's profession, right, in emergency medical services and firefighting, like he sees traumas and the most, emergency events of people's lives, including death, but also just as a spiritual family, we talk about angels and spirit guides and things that maybe um, other people don't choose to talk about with their 2 and 4 year olds, but we have like pictures of Jon's uncle who's passed away, and we have books from family members that have passed away, and we talk about them with our kids when they pull out the book, or when we, see the picture of that person, and we talk about boating, we talk about that person. Their names are names that our kids know, and they bring them up often.
And Hudson's already understanding the concepts of, I feel like since he was 3, understanding the concepts of what could cause you to die earlier. Like we discussed Uncle Kenny. Well, Uncle Kenny smokes cigarettes. Cigarettes can cause cancer. Cancer is a sickness that can make you die early. So he understands these things. And we already had a very interesting moment with Amanda's brother, so Hudson's uncle. More or less, Hudson spoke to him. This 4-year-old went up to him and said, why are you smoking? Why are you choosing to die? Uncle Robbie, I want you to stay with me. And so Uncle Robbie, at the age of 40, was like,
we were getting ready for bed, and he had this, I don't know, revelation or something. And he said, Mommy, I'm worried about Uncle Robbie. And so we talked about it, and I said, okay, let's call him. So we called him, and we talked to him, and, it's taking that experience of a conversation in a different context, and then Hudson's applying it in a different context. Like, okay, you can run freely on the grass, but not in a parking lot. So we're still not making that bridge yet. But then he made this other bridge on another hard truth, life lesson. So we know that they're happening, and unexpectedly, because I wasn't expecting that, getting him ready for bed. And it's very, profound thing for a 4-year-old to just bloop and come up with.
There's a book I read, but it said the true measure of intelligence is your ability to link all these different areas of your brain efficiently and with speed. And it's through repetition that you're able to do that. And it's how you learn and how you regurgitate this information. You use those neurons every day. So like to be taught something black and white is the same thing as how we were taught in the 90s in school, which is flashcards, right? You read something, you regurgitate it. You read something, you regurgitate it, using one spot of your brain. But if you learn through it being immersed, like going into a different country and living in it to learn a language where you have to interact, whether it's with your hands or with verbal, or you're using all these different areas of your brain to connect all these facts and events, and you get a rounder perspective of it, and your brain's able to readily grasp that knowledge quicker. And that's kind of what I think about when you think about educating your kids that way. You don't just say, well, smoking's bad. Why? Because it's bad. It can kill you. Why? Because it's bad. We don't do it. And the line stops there. Then that's the stamp they have, but it's not connected to anywhere else in their brain. It's just this one little speed bump that they might not even hit when they're trying to make a decision in life. But if you put it in and it's linked to all these things, now when Hudson thinks about smoking, he thinks about family, the pain of loss, how he never met his uncle, how his current uncle might be dying from it. Like, so smoking has stamped all across his brain as whatever experience he took from it. But yeah.
Yeah. Another one that I think of, hard truth, is the concept of money and that things cost. So we don't want our kids to like feel this financial burden that adults do. And the stresses of things. But at the same time, we want them to know they can't just have everything, do everything. So we do talk to them about actual coins and dollars, and then they see our credit card, our debit card. So recently Hudson wanted to do something and I said, I don't have any money for that. And he was like, well, you can just tap it, Mom. Like he already knows you just tap your plastic card. Like you don't even swipe it. He didn't even say your card. He said you can just tap it. And my mind is just like exploding as he says that in the back seat and I'm driving. And we've gone to the bank together. He's seen the bank. So again, we'd have that conversation, and I had recently taken them to the bank to put some cash in the bank. And so we had that conversation. Well, the reason the card can tap is because there's actually those dollar bills in the bank that make the card tap. If we don't have the dollars in the bank, the card won't tap. So it's, again, like Jon said, making the connections in different contexts. And our kids have coin jars. They know what a gift card is. That was a whole nother learning experience. A neighbor gave us gift cards to our local yogurt shop, and Hudson, we used it, but unlike a credit card or a debit card where you keep tapping it, his gift card was all used up. So that was the first time he'd experienced that. And that was a huge meltdown learning lesson of a hard truth, is that the card is empty and you can't use it again.
I personally love this because me and Hudson, when I'm home, we spend a lot of time building Legos together, or an erector set, or going out to do things in the yard. We do activities together that require sometimes following directions or not following directions. But I always approach it in a way of, when he asks me something, I always approach it in a way of, I don't know, dude, let's figure it out. And he still dives in and tries. And then, of course, depending on the level of difficulty, he immediately pulls out or whatever have you. But he feels involved, and he had good emotion, usually has good emotions with it, which is my goal, is that he sees that daddy doesn't know everything.
Right.
And that daddy moves forward and puts time and effort in, and then we get results at the end. And that he feels comfortable in that environment of, this is normal to not know. This is normal to figure it out, and this is normal to succeed and then move on to the next thing. As opposed to it just being like, I never saw things get done. I don't know how things get done. All I know is I don't know how.
And that my parents have all the answers.
That my parents have all the answers. And that's not a stigma that I subscribe to for raising the kids. I prefer you consider that I know nothing. I'm going to tell you what I may think, and then there's going to be rules that I lay down that you don't really have a choice for. Sorry, I'm the parent. I have to keep you safe. But besides that, we're just figuring this thing out together, And that may come back and bite us in the butt when they're 13. I get that. But
raising toddlers, this is our perspective.
Yeah, but for right now, I think it's working out really well because they still come to us for everything. When we say we know something and tell them, they don't question it. And then when we say, well, let's learn, they dive right in. And they see us doing the dive in thing so often that if we say, well, I know, but you should try and figure it out, then they do. They don't say, screw you, Mom and Dad, just tell me. They actually try to engage, which could be an age thing. I don't know yet. But like my one of my goals is that as they get into their older phases of 13, etc., they get to see us building business and renovating houses, and they see the process. They might not have to understand it. It'd be awesome if we could teach them along the way and they understand it. But at least they see the process of, our parents do lots of things. So in their head, it's normal. It's normal for people to be able to do lots of things. And it's normal for people to own lots of businesses. And it's normal for people to be able to make money in different ways. And it's normal to have friends all over the country. And it's normal to spend time with friends every day or every other day. And it's normal to, like, whatever you can expose them to that leads to healthy behaviors, getting out of the house and stimulating a better life, they'll think it's normal because they can see it, right? And once they don't think that it's so far fetched, then it feels that much closer to them when they go to try to make that leap.
Yeah. I think, it's just teaching them about life. And um, we we tell them, it's our job to guide you and keep you safe, like John said. And there's other things like I've never been to this museum, so I'm gonna learn with you. Let's figure this out. This is a new robot building set. I don't know how to do it. Let's read the instructions and learn together. And I think we do not, pretend that we know everything. We do share that we're figuring it out along the way. And some things we make mistakes. We make sure we tell them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't know this. The museum was closed today. We drove all the way here. And yes, we feel disappointed, and make sure we're modeling that for them, because that's a huge piece of, life too, is being able to apologize. And I think that's huge that we can model that, connect with our kids, and value their feelings of disappointment. That I feel disappointed too. I really wanted to go to this museum today too.
And then how to handle it. But when I'm disappointed, what I do, think about the things that I'm grateful for, and then try to make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
Right? So what are we going to do now that we're here and the museum's closed? Well, we love the Mexican food around the corner. Do you want some rice and beans? Look, now we get rice and beans.
Or a picnic at the Rose Garden.
Picnic at the Rose Garden.
Which was really fun. We did that one time.
As opposed to just focusing on the bad.
Yeah. So we feel like this was something that recently, thinking about hard decisions and parenting and, the questions that we ask ourselves, and reflecting on offering our kids different experiences in childhood, and also teaching them hard truths about life too. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.